By the time an American child is 18 years old, he or she will have seen 200,000 acts of violence on television and in the movies, 40,000 of which are murders. But these are fictional. I'm not saying that it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I think there's way too much violence on television and in the movies and in video games, but it is fictional. Since we as a country suffered the great misfortune of having Donald back in the White House, it feels like we are witnessing real acts of violence on a daily basis, most often perpetrated by the government or those sanctioned by the government. This is an unsustainable situation because seeing a lot of fictionalized violence does not inure one to violence. It does not make one more prone to be violent. But when the state not just sanctions violence, but perpetuates it, that's a different matter entirely. I am, of course, using as my most immediate point of reference the shooting death of a woman, Renee Nicole Good, about whom I will be speaking more in a minute, by an ICE agent. There is plenty of video evidence to show us that this was an unprovoked, completely unnecessary killing, and one that would not have happened if Donald and the puppy murderer, Department of Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem, hadn't been deploying ICE agents into cities across America, particularly blue cities, in a quest to fulfill a quota to detain, arrest, and deport as many immigrants and undocumented workers as possible. But we seem to forget that under the Trump regime, many, many more unnecessary deaths are being perpetuated. And in this particular instance, I will say that they are murders. I'm talking about the bombings of boats in the Caribbean Sea. Every time we see video of those boats being blown up, we are witnessing the deaths of other human beings. Some of whom, all of whom, may indeed be innocent of the crimes the Trump regime accuses them of. But we don't know and we never will, because all of those people were denied their due process. And every single one of them, whether they were guilty of a crime or not, was murdered by the United States of America. Again, this is unsustainable. It inures all of the wrong people to the kinds of violence we as a society should want to avoid. It empowers people like those masked brown shirts at ICE to encourage more violence like it, because they know they can do so with impunity because their boss, one of the most corrupt, cruel, criminal people ever to walk the planet, will immunize them because he has been immunized. He can commit whatever horrors he can come up with in that dark little mind of his and get away with all of it. Thanks in part to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, but also thanks in part to a feckless, fascistic Republican Party who will do his bidding. And of course, to the agencies that, like the Department of Homeland Security, like the Department of Justice, seem only to exist in order to do Donald Trump's bidding and make sure that he continues to be able to act with total impunity. I don't know where this ends. I don't know where this is going to lead. What I do know is that we have to make it very clear to people that it's unacceptable. And we will not accept this regime's version of events. We will not allow media outlets like the New York Times to pretend that there are two sides to this issue. I'm thinking specifically of an article, a headline for an article that came out today. I'm paraphrasing. The video of the shooting is a political Rorschach test. No, it is not. The videos of the shooting, an excellent one of which was compiled by the aforementioned New York Times, makes it extremely clear that this shooting was unprovoked. The woman in the car did not present any threat whatsoever to the officers, who were shouting conflicting statements at her. And the officer responsible for the shooting was not hit by the car. The driver was not aiming for him. And without, again, any provocation whatsoever, the officer drew his weapon and immediately fired 3 shots at the driver of the car. The test here is which politicians are willing to lie to our faces about this incident. The test here is just how egregiously they're willing to lie to try to convince those of us who understand how video works not to believe our eyes. All of us need to have confidence in our own lived experiences and keep in mind that there is literally nobody in a position of power in the federal government who is willing to tell the truth when doing so will interfere with the narrative that ICE and ICE agents are on the side of good, or that Donald and people like Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance give a shit about the safety of the American people, or that they are trying to protect us from something. What we need is to be protected from them. That's what we need to remember. And that's what we need to do something about. Let's dive in. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mary Trump Live. It's been another day, hasn't it? And I still have jet lag, so I apologize if I'm dragging a little bit. Although this morning, I was wondering, is it jet lag or is it just the state of the world? I'm not entirely sure, and I'm afraid it's the latter, which is probably harder to get over than jet lag. I don't think electrolytes are going to help me in that instance. So, obviously, as we all now know, our country is in a state of turmoil because of the shooting death of Renee Nicole Good, a woman who was shot point blank by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ms. Good was a mother, a partner, a poet, a writer. She was also somebody else's child. Her mother described her as compassionate and kind. A local resident, Emily Heller, who witnessed this shooting, went on CNN to shut down the absolutely horrific propaganda and disinformation that is coming out of the Trump regime in the wake of this horrific event, for which we need to be clear, they are responsible. Watch this.
President Trump, as you know, posted a video saying that it's lucky the ICE agent was alive. And I just want to be clear, the ICE agent is walking afterwards. And we know that from anything that he had in the hospital, he's fine and he's out. But President Trump posted.
Stood there.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you're going to say about what he did afterwards.
Oh, he just stood there. The other ICE agents surrounded him. He was obviously spooked too. I mean, they seem like children. They seem like untrained people. And so that agent was obviously spooked because he had just killed someone, and it was very obvious to everyone who had witnessed it all that she would not make it. And so they kind of gathered around him, and then there was a gold SUV that came, and they put him in it and got him out of there because everyone knew he had murdered someone.
President Trump says the woman was disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense. He shared a video of the incident from a different angle. What's your response to that version of events?
I mean, that's the only reason why I'm here. I don't think I'm the most articulate person. I don't think that I don't want to be here, but I knew that this would be twisted and it would be self-defense, and that's absolutely not what happened. But it's just my life is forever changed from having witnessed this, and I just can't let this narrative that it was self-defense go any further, because it's absolutely not what it was.
Absolutely not what it was, as an eyewitness to the events. She also talked about the fact that the agents were like children. They didn't seem to know what the hell they were doing. And for those of you who aren't aware, there's a Substack by Chris Geidner called Law Dork, and highly recommend it. And he wrote a piece in which he said that Judge Sarah Ellis all but told us today, meaning the shooting of somebody like Renee Nicole Good would happen. In a ruling she wrote on November 20th, the judge said, quote, agents have used excessive force in response to protesters and journalists' exercise of their First Amendment rights without justification, often without warning, and even at those who had begun to comply with agents' orders, unquote. The judge also discussed the lack of training, or the very poor training, that many ICE agents have received, because the Department of Homeland Security and ICE are desperate to hire new people in order to keep up with the quotas. They are supposed to be detaining and arresting something like 3,000 people a day, and that requires manpower. So many of the new agents being hired are seriously unqualified and incompetent, which sounds like everybody in the Trump regime, actually. So again, the facts matter here, and we need to be very, very clear about what actually happened and the kind of people we're dealing with, who, one, would belong to an agency like ICE, and two, would make the kinds of excuses that are being made for the ICE agent, who was masked, of course, who killed Ms. Good. There have been protests. I'm sure these will grow in the coming days, and in the wake of the shooting, thousands attended a vigil for Ms. Good at the scene of her death. Now, as for the investigation, typically state agencies and the FBI work together. So initially, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, known as the BCA, was supposed to work alongside the FBI to investigate the shooting. But today, The Guardian reported the FBI usurped full control of the case. Access to all case materials has been suddenly revoked from the BCA. This is deeply troubling and is just another bit of evidence that the FBI in particular and the DOJ in general are no longer independent of the executive branch, or I should say the White House. In fact, both of those entities are effectively being run from the White House. The FBI has taken over this case and excluded Minnesota, Minnesota's investigative agency, because the FBI wants the complete power to make sure they can come to the conclusion they want to come to. And we already know what that is, actually, because Donald And Caroline Levitt and J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem have told us what the conclusion is. This afternoon, a press conference was held addressing the killing of Ms. Good in Minneapolis. The proceedings were clearly designed to gaslight the public and spread the kinds of disinformation and propaganda we should be used to by now. First, Press Secretary Caroline Levitt had the audacity to express Donald's sincere sympathies for the man responsible for the killing of Ms. Good. Watch this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me be clear. President Trump and his entire administration stand fully behind the heroic men and women of ICE and will always uphold law and order in the United States of America. The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement that has spread across our country, where our brave men and women of federal law enforcement are under organized attack.
Yes. Yes, that horrific left-wing movement to exercise our First Amendment rights and try to protect our neighbors from being disappeared from American cities by an out-of-control corrupt agency like ICE. Levitt reassured Americans that the Trump regime intends to double down on the policies that just resulted in the killing of an unarmed American citizen. Watch this.
The Trump administration will redouble our efforts to get the worst of the worst, criminal illegal alien killers, rapists, and pedophiles off of American streets. The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota, not only to remove criminal illegal aliens, but also to continue conducting door-to-door investigations of the rampant fraud that has taken place in the state under the failed and corrupt leadership of Democrat Governor Tim Walz.
It's Democratic, you cretin. Yes, the worst of the worst. That's what they're interested in saving us from. Then please resign. Caroline Levitt, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller. Protect America from pedophiles. Release the Epstein files. Then we had the great misfortune of hearing from Vice President J.D. Vance. He blamed the media for the death of an unarmed woman who was behind the wheel of her car when an ICE agent shot her 3 times. Here he is.
Somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America.
None of that is true in terms of the imminent threat to the officer's life and the role Ms. Good played. She was not interfering with anything. I think she was just trying to figure out what was being asked of her. If, however, it's true that that agent had been dragged by a car 6 months ago and was still suffering the trauma of that event, what the fuck is he doing with a gun being put in the kind of situation that could endanger his life? Also, his life wasn't in danger even a little bit, which Vance knows because he saw that video, or I should say, he saw all of those videos. So he knows he's lying. They all know they're lying. They always know they're lying. Reporter asked Vance if he believed it was wrong to characterize the way things the way he has been, despite the fact that there hasn't been a full investigation yet. His answer was to lie more. Take a look.
Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual, her specific acts, that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left, who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers.
What movement? What movement? Also, prove it. Prove that she was intentionally trying to hurt those officers or to interfere with a so-called legitimate law enforcement operation. Also, by the way, what was that legitimate law enforcement operation? What were they trying to do exactly, other than terrorize Somali Americans in Minneapolis? Vance then suggests that any federal officer has absolute immunity, which is news to anybody who has read the Constitution, which he probably hasn't done. Donald certainly hasn't. Here are his remarks about that.
So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous.
Is it really preposterous? I love it when the fascists call people on the left radicals. If it weren't so horrific, I guess it would be amusing. But because Vance is as soulless as anybody else in the Trump regime, he just continued to lie more about what happened.
Look, I don't know what is in a person's heart or in a person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I'm certain of is that that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder, which is what many of you have said explicitly and some of you have said implicitly.
I don't know what's in anybody's heart, but clearly the officer was afraid for his life. Interesting. So you know what was in his heart. Also, the only thing I agree with Vance about there is we should not be referring to this as murder because that requires a trial and a verdict. It looks like murder, but I don't know. Because again, that's a process. Should he be charged with something? Yes, I do indeed think he should be charged with something. If they are so convinced that this man did nothing wrong, well, then what? Then fine, have an investigation. It is important, though, to make sure that we continue to set the record straight all along the way so none of this propaganda, disinformation gains hold, although that's going to be a trick and a half considering it's coming out of the White House and they have Fox and every right-wing publication parroting their horrifically untrue talking points. The car, now again, I'm just going by what I saw. The car backed up a little bit. The wheel was turned, so the car would turn to the right. The officer was standing next to the left headlight of the car. So in other words, the wheels of the car were turned away from the officer. The officer was not hit by the car. The car was not aimed at the officer. Since the car did not hit him, he was not injured by the car. In fact, after he, like within a second, fired off those 3 shots as the car was driving away from him, hang on a second. Let me just, this just occurred to me, even though I'm not sure why it just occurred to me. He shot through the driver's side window. If he were underneath the front wheels of the car, how would that be possible? If he had been hit by the car, how could he fire his shots through the passenger side window? He wasn't in front of the car. He wasn't underneath the car. He was next to the car as it was trying to drive away from him. After he killed Ms. Good, he kept walking away. He asked somebody to call 911. And then, from what I understand, he and a couple of other agents got into their car and left an active crime scene, which was an active crime scene because that man committed a crime. Whether or not it's murder, we do not yet know. Donald, Vance, Noam, Levitt, they are maligning a dead woman in a way that is so despicable, I don't have words to describe it. Now, one thing they are saying about this woman is true. And even though it will not make a bit of difference in terms of the lives that were ruined in the wake of this shooting, I hope her family sues Donald, Vance, Noam, Levitt, and anybody else who engages in this kind of grotesque rhetoric for everything they have. All right. Some sort of good news, I guess. The Washington Post is reporting today that the Senate advanced a bill to block the Trump regime from taking further military action in Venezuela. I guess better late than never. The bipartisan measure passed 52 to 47. 5 Republicans joined with Senate Democrats, all Senate Democrats, in supporting the motion. I'm assuming, I should know this, I apologize. I'm assuming that Fetterman, pseudo-Democrat John Fetterman, sided with Republicans, but I'm not sure. The Post adds that, quote, Thursday's vote revealed a red line, even for some Senate Republicans who had previously doubted the likelihood Donald would order a unilateral attack on Venezuela. GOP senators voted down a similar measure in November, shortly after Secretary of State Marco Rubio told key lawmakers in a classified briefing that the administration did not intend to invade the country, unquote. Yes, because he's such a brave truth teller. I think it's important from time to time to point out that Democrats have a lot to make up for, because every single one of them voted to confirm Marco Rubio's appointment as Secretary of State, even though he's a Nazi. Democrats are reportedly planning to introduce additional war powers resolution. This was spurred by the Trump regime expressing interest in military. Wow, I can't even talk anymore. Sorry. Expressing interest in military operations in other countries, including Cuba and Greenland. So maybe one half of one branch of our government is going to try to provide some kind of oversight. You know, those checks and balances we hear about that so often these days seem mythical and imaginary. But it is a very bad sign that only 5 Republicans voted to provide, to rein in the executive branch here. That is a very bad sign. But at least it happened. I have an idea. Let's shift gears. Just want to remind all of you that the Mary Trump podcast is available now everywhere in the known universe, which is to say Earth. No, that's not true. As far as we know, Earth is the only inhabited planet in the universe. We know a lot about the universe, but as far as we're aware, we're the only people in the universe who listen to podcasts. And ours is available everywhere you can get podcasts. So basically, just tune into commentary, because there's a lot of bigly chicanery coming from the White House. And we're on it. I think you'll like the podcast because it's sort of a combination of videos that we post on YouTube throughout the day. So it's a good way to get all of it in one spot. And it sounds really good, I have to say. So props to the team for doing such a phenomenal job. Which brings us to something I've been looking forward to. I was going to say for like a year, but it's really only since this morning. Feels like a year. It's time. First of all, it's time to breathe. I have not breathed. I haven't taken a breath since the show began, probably. So let's do that. And now, what I've been waiting for, our emotional support moment. Again, another long day and another already very long year. So let's just kind of clear our heads. Think about where you would rather be this week. And just imagine yourself there. As you know, I mean, there are many places on the planet I love to be. But when I think about just sort of relaxing, decompressing, grounding myself, I want to be in, on, or near the water. Not near, like next, like right there. And particularly in the winter, I want to be in the Caribbean or somewhere tropical. So here's another clip of a tropical coast setting with those stunningly beautiful Caribbean blue waves crashing on a warm, lovely white beach. So watch, breathe, and recharge. Oh, sorry. I'm still in the Caribbean. That was lovely. But it is time for your questions, comments, etc. Also lovely. Oh, wait, we got merch feedback, by the way. Do not forget about our very cool merch. We're very excited about it. I need to start wearing it and representing. But see, there it is. It's cool. And there will continue to be more. We're just getting started. I don't know, perhaps abolish eyes, fuck eyes. I don't know, something like that rolls trippingly off the tongue. So here's the feedback. This is quality merch, gift worthy. Ink coverage is perfect. Even has washing instructions on the tag. So happy to own it. Can't wait to go shopping. Unsolicited. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it, actually, because it's always good to have feedback. That way we can make adjustments as necessary, or it's just nice to be told that we're on the right track. So thank you. All right, here we go. Bizarre Love Muffin has been a member for a month. Fabulous. Comment, made it through a crazy month. Thanks to everyone. Yes, a crazy month. God, I think we're going to have to start thinking about this, the second Trump regime, in terms of like dog years. No, that's not what I meant, because dogs are awesome. But, like some years for dogs are actually the equivalent of like 15 human years or something. I know the average is 7, but it's not consistent over time. Like they age, it doesn't matter, but you know what I'm saying. Mighty Cheryl, thank you as always for gifting 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Awesome. And the Mighty Cheryl twofer. Thank you. This is a swear jar donation. Thanks to you know who. Can't even imagine. Social justice strategist Canada in the house. Elbows up, guys. Comment, urgent, indivisible emergency meeting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Visit their website for registration. Okay. You have your marching orders. Julie, thank you very much for that. This is for the JC swear jar. Not feeling so Christian lately. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. I mean, I'm not Christian, so I don't know what it feels like, but I think I understand what you're saying, and I hear you. Linda gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you very much, Linda. Brigid 45, thank you very much. This is swear jar fee, much needed today and every day now. Yes, every day. Happy Charlie 2014. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Comment. We're going to need a bigger swear jar fee. We are. Joe, get on it. I'm not sure how we do that, but let's figure it out. Spencer, thank you very much, Spencer. It's very kind of you. Comment. I have no words. Yeah, sometimes I don't either, which makes having to say them tricky on occasion. Stella is a new member. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Aviation Geek Julia 1994 has been a member for 7 months. No one is illegal. No. And calling people illegal anything is so offensive. So offensive, and it dehumanizes them, but that is the point, isn't it? Susan, thank you so much for gifting 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Most excellent. Mischievous 11, also, thank you so very much for gifting 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Megan has been a member for a month. Awesomeness. Comment, this is more than we can take. Yeah, well, I'll have a thing or two to say about that in the not too distant future. But remember, it's intentional. Doing this on purpose, all of it is intentional. So that's why we need to figure out how to disengage sometimes. It has to happen. Because I think that something I figured out a long time ago is that people like Donald, and especially him, they thrive on this stuff. It's sort of like in a different way, obviously, because being introverted or extroverted, that's a non-judgment. It's not one is better than the other, right? But for example, introverts are recharged by being among people, right? Going to parties, going to dinner parties, what have you. Extroverts, are charged up by that kind of thing. Introverts aren't reckless. Like, introverts like being around people. They enjoy it, but it drains them. So introverts charge their batteries by being alone, by taking themselves out of social situations. Again, not that they don't enjoy them, but it's draining. So what's going on now is that the horrible, cruel, despicable, corrupt people in charge are energized by the awful things they're unleashing on this country. They're energized by watching people's lives being ruined. They're energized by our demoralization. And we are drained by all of it because we care. I've said this many, many times, and it will continue to be true for the foreseeable future. It is a terrible time to be a human being with empathy. So we need to protect ourselves and marshal our resources. Joe, Colorado, for whom the swear jar was named. Comment, they will never be able to wash the blood off themselves. Where the fuck is Congress? They are now just as guilty. Yeah. I mean, not the Democrats don't have power to do anything. Don't get me wrong. The Democrats should be out there more. They should be talking more, but they literally don't have any power to affect change. So, I mean, I've believed this for a long time. The Republican Party is a party of fascists. Every single one of those Republicans in Congress is just as responsible as Donald for all of this. They're letting it happen. They want it to happen. Susan, thank you so much again. Comment, JD Vance is why we need independent media more than ever. Another massive cover up. Thank you, Mary and Mary Trump Media. Well, thank you, Susan, for pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, Vance is just, he's as opportunistic and soulless as they come. And yeah, this is going to be bad. So we will stay on top of it. I promise you. Joe, again, thank you very much. This is a swear jar fee. I don't know. Does the namer of the swear jar ever have to pay a swear jar fee? Unless, of course, you're swearing a lot, in which case, yes, indeed. And thank you. LLN 1957, thank you very much. Comment, found the perfect t-shirt for you. Spock on it doing the Vulcan saying, don't play with super glue. Oh my God, I'm going to get that for Bob. That's fantastic. That is so fantastic. I mean, I'll get it for myself too, but I think Bob will really appreciate it. Sorry, I must hydrate. Having to put the heat on is extraordinarily dehydrating. All right. Hang on a second. I'm looking for something that I want to share with you. I think you will find of interest. So, speaking of Bob Seska, podcast host extraordinaire, my good friend, and also my co-host of our podcast, Trek Politics. Every Sunday, I believe at 6, right? Yes, every Sunday at 6. So we just recorded our next episode today. And last week, trekmovie.com came out with a best of Star Trek 2025 list. And I am very shocked, actually, surprised, pleased, all of that to say that our podcast was named the best themed podcast of 2025, which is really gratifying because that podcast, our podcast, means a lot to us. So again, I want to thank the proprietors of trekmovie.com, Anthony Pascal and Lori Ulster, for doing that for us, because it's really meaningful, because both of us are really admire their work. So it meant a lot. Susan, again. Wow. Comment, shout out to the Mary Trump Media team for the beautiful ESM. Thank you. Yeah, guys, knock that one out of the park. That really just, I mean, it just helps so much. We should all be allowing ourselves to watch videos like that, listen to sounds like that whenever we can. Susan, again, my goodness gracious. Thank you. Comment, voting for a Joe Colorado swear jar in the Mary Trump Media merch store. Done. Consider it done. Love that idea. James is a new member. Thank you so much, James. It is great to have you here. Addicted to Action, thank you very, very much. Question, when is the Nerd Avenger start? Thank you for your help, Mary, to use your voice. Well, first of all, you're welcome. It is actually a privilege to be able to do so. As for the Nerd Avengers, I promise you, we are working on it. We just have to figure out the right format, because it's a lot of really awesome extremely smart, talented people, and we want to make sure that we are making the best use of their time. So we will keep you posted. Truth, Freedom, Love, LSS is a new member. Thank you so very much for that and welcome. 56, Nick Rich, Canada, in the house again. Elbows up, guys. This is a profanity bonus, of course. Ghostly Air 59, thank you so much, as always. Comment, hi, Mary. Donation for Joe Colorado swear tank. The jar is too small. Yes. Reminds me, after I graduated from Tufts, I lived in Somerville for a while, and there was a little movie theater there, and they had, obviously, they sold popcorn. They had a small, a medium, and a canyon o' corn. So it was a very large container of popcorn. So yeah, maybe we need a swear canyon. But I like swear tank. That works for me. Frauenhouse, thank you as always. Comment, even if she was blocking ICE, in German history, remember people who died shielding the persecuted as heroes. At least most of us do. Yeah, exactly. And also, again, leaving aside whether she was blocking them or what have you, it is illegal to fire a weapon into a car, just as is illegal to fire a weapon from a vehicle. So that should matter. Jackie S6C gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Thank you very much for that. Mischievous 11, thank you. Also, comment, donation for swear jar upgrade. Swear jug. All right, I think we're going to have a survey. What is your favorite large container? So far, we've got tank, we've got jug, we've got canyon. I know, canyon, you're thinking, might be too big. Give it a month. James, wow, James, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And Dorothy, thank you as always. This is an introvert fee. I can relate to that because I too am an introvert. As a 35-1C, thank you very, very much. Comment, Gnome, Vance, and Donald should be forced to watch and explain the footage publicly. Cheers for Australia. Yeah, they should, shouldn't they? They should. For those of you, I have serious issues with the New York Times. However, their video compilation of the incident is excellent. I strongly encourage you to watch it. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say that because it's horrible. And in it, we watch an innocent woman being shot to death. But if you want to see what actually happened and understand just how badly these people are lying to us, I would watch it with the understanding that it's absolutely awful. Susan, my goodness gracious. Okay. All right, here we go. Yes, Ghostly Air 59 wants a swear tank instead of a swear jar for Joe Colorado. Fill it up. Yep. So then the question remains, what is the t-shirt going to say? I think the t-shirt should still say swear jar, though, because that's sort of standard. Like, people understand what a swear jar is. I don't know if they'll know immediately what a swear tank is. We will, of course. We'll workshop it. But we definitely need to do that survey. Or poll. Short Pam, thank you very much for that. Comment, this is a swear jar fee in honor of Mayor Phrase Brilliant. Get the fuck out of our city. Yeah, no kidding. And then his appearance on, I think it might have been CNN. I'm not positive. When he was asked, people on the right are so offended by what you said. And he's like, really? So sorry to offend their little Disney princess ears, but a woman was shot to death if my swearing offends you more, I don't even know what to say. His response was excellent. And yeah, I mean, the reason she's dead is because ICE is in their city. So yes, get the fuck out. You're welcome, Joe Colorado. Putting it in the tank. Or the jug. Or the cannon. Or the jar. Eileen, thank you so very much for that. Comment for a blessing jar. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a nice counterbalance. It's a very nice counterbalance. Triple DNA 123. Thank you for that. Comment breaking on ABC. I shot 2 people in Portland, Oregon. Yep. ICE has been shooting a lot of people for a while now, so expect more of the same. Because I know this shouldn't matter, right? But this is the country we live in now. We are told they're going after the worst of the worst of the worst. All those terrifying brown people coming over our border, brown and black people coming over our borders. All those Central Americans, all those Hondurans, all those Haitians and Somalis. It's all lies, of course. As far as I'm aware, the woman they killed today didn't belong to any of the groups they claim to be going after. So, what's the line? There isn't one. Joe Colorado, thank you very much. Comment, love Trek Politics. Be sure to watch. Well, thank you. We love doing it, quite honestly. And the next episode is about one of the most reviled episodes in Star Trek history called Turnabout Intruder, which, interestingly enough, is an episode I really like. Even though Hollywood rated it the worst Star Trek episode ever. So, watch on Sunday to see why I think that. Even as I understand it's just horrible and misogynistic. Purpley One has been a member for 7 months. Fantastic. Comment, the maritime media community is fucking awesome. It is. But I think that just necessitated a swear jar fee. But I mean, I don't make the rules. So. A social justice strategist, elbows up. Hey, Canada, hang tough. Yeah, especially since we know, since this Venezuela nightmare and all the talk about Cuba and Greenland, he's going to start talking about making Canada the 51st state again. So, anyway, comment. Wright is focusing a rumor Renee was gay. And tell anyone who tries to make that the story that she's a human. Yeah, they don't care. But yeah, tell that to her 6-year-old. These people are just monstrous. Jen has been a member for a month. Fabulous comment. Federal agent shot man and woman in Oregon. Yeah. In the middle of nowhere. Thank you so very much, as always. Gifted 5 Maritime Media memberships. And Abitarex, sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but also gifted 5 Maritime Media memberships. That's great. And much appreciated, both of you. Elizabeth, thank you very much for that. Comment, Drew and the Clouder. Vote for a swear litter box. Okay. I love the word clouder. For those of you who don't know, it just means a bunch of kittens. It's like the coolest thing ever. Clouder. Sorry, I'm a lot of comments today. in the middle of nowhere. Thank you again, as always. Comment late to the party, but glad to be here, and we are glad that you are here. Short Pam, thank you again. Comment reminder to keep the Epstein files in the news. Yes, no kidding. Again, Caroline Levitt says they're going after the worst of the worst and they want to rid the country of pedophiles. Well, guess what? Talk to your fucking boss. Oh, I need to keep track of how many swear jar fees I owe. 6? Oh boy. That's just for tonight, just so we're clear. I wish I knew how to pronounce this. I'm so sorry. Abenirex? Abe Nirex? Let's get something phonetic. Anyway, member for 6 months. Oh, look, there we go. First of all, that's awesome. Comment saying hello. Dr. Aida Benitez Rexac. Cool. I probably mispronounced that as well, but still. Getting closer. Susan, my goodness gracious. Thank you again. Comment, Trek Politics playlist. Check it out. Thank you. And please do. I love that show. And on occasion, we also interview awesome Star Trek people. Purpley one, thank you again. Comment, this is for the Joe Colorado swear jar. And finally, Jana, thank you as always. Comment, I'm at work. Here are some swears. Fucking awesome. Thank you. All right, that does it for us. Thank you all for being here. That was a long show. So thank you for hanging in there. It's been a long day. I'm going to have to stop saying that because it's just inherently true. All right. Thank you to everybody watching on YouTube, streaming, on Twitter, and over at The Good in Us. Much appreciated. To all of our new members, everybody gifting memberships, all of our super stickers, everybody giving us donations. Thank you very much. Truly, we are here because of you. To our awesome mods for making this a place we all want to be. That is not an easy task, especially in these particular times. Easiest way to support us, just subscribe to the channel. Please encourage other people to subscribe to the channel. Watch our, listen to our podcast. Just sign up for it. Give us a 5-star review. That helps a lot. As for YouTube, watch our pre-recorded videos, like them, share them, comment on them. That helps us with the algorithm because apparently YouTube hates us or something. Not really sure what's going on. And spread the word. Be awesome. Oh, another thing, people are not getting alerts, which is problematic. So just make sure that you are signed up to get them. You just click on the bell icon at the top of our YouTube channel, and it will give you options. Just click on all. And theoretically, you should be alerted every time we have a new video drop. Doesn't seem to be happening, but just double check. Finally, to my phenomenal team, 2026 is gearing up to be a very difficult year. So, trust me, everybody watching, I have the best team in the business. They're awesome, and they are going to help all of us get through this with their extremely impressive equanimity, humor, and generosity, kindness, and all of that. So thanks, guys. As always, we will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, for the Friday episode of Barry Trump Live. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind. Good night.